Hello there, many thanks for joining us on our Friday Business News Report. It's now time to bring a feature on the show today. We are focusing on the aviation sector. Now, a whole lot of reactions has followed the federal government's announcement of its approval for Dubai-based Emirates Airlines to resume flight operations into Nigeria, which starts on Saturday, the 5th of February. Barely a few more hours to go, just as Air Peace has indicated that it would also resume operations to Dubai from the 1st of next month. Following the outbreak of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 late last year, the United Arab Emirates restricted passengers traveling to the Middle East nation from Nigeria and 11 other countries, which had later lifted on the 29th of last month. Earlier, Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates had settled some impasse occasioned by disagreements over the conduct of COVID-19 tests and later disagreements over flight slots. The federal government restored Emirates' 21 weekly flight, while UAE also allows Air Peace 7 weekly flights to Dubai International Airport. All passengers traveling from Nigeria with Dubai as their final destination are required of a 48-hour PCR test, and that's according to the airline, which also notes that passengers are also required to present a valid negative COVID-19 PCR test certificate with a QR code for a test conducted at an approved facility, and validity must be calculated from the time the sample was first collected. Joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this and much more, I have Tayo Juri, Managing Partner at Aglo Aviation Support Services Limited. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Good morning.
Nice to be here.
The dust seems to be settling right now, looking at the back and forth we've had, especially within the realm of aeropolitics, and whether or not we are doing our best in terms of managing the relationship between the United Arab Emirates and then the federal government here in Nigeria. In terms of lessons learned and your initial reaction to this, what do you make of all of this that we've had so far, the highlights of the developments?
We saw there was going to be an end to it because obviously there's the market here. There's the need for this to get to an end, and aeropolitics, lesson learned was we realized it was skewed towards a certain side, and we actually realized we had to wake up to see what our rights as a nation. And as the Nigerian Civil Aviation pointed out, they actually insisted that they must give Air Peace the necessary rights at the designated airports they wanted. But over and beyond that, things have begun to start to come to normal with post-COVID travel restrictions being relaxed, because now it's now getting into 2 years of COVID and it's affecting the bottom line. It's all about the bottom line for the airline. No matter how much sustainability our government subvention the airline gets, they still need to fly to make money. So you actually saw this open up in the middle of January, where Emirates actually started up their flights to 5 African nations, and to ensure that continuity, that yield capacity, they ensured that they actually had to start Nigeria as well, because we have the connection, we have the population as well. So it was just at the right time making sure that this started, and on the other side, Air Peace was going to start is scheduled to start on March 1st.
And now there's some belief that Emirates has also relaxes conditions for allowing flights into Dubai now, according to some these stringent measures, are now being relaxed and then coming to a much more relatable condition to allow flights. What do you make of this perceived relaxed condition, really?
I won't call it a relaxed condition, because one of the challenge, or the major challenge there was they had to have apart from the 48-hour PCR test, you still had the antigen test, the rapid test on the day of travel. So this was a no-no for the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. But now, starting tomorrow, you still have the 48-hour test. But on arrival in the UAE, the passenger is still mandated to a test on arrival, and the passenger will be in isolation till they get the test results. So it's not as if you arrive there and you're free to do whatever you need to do, like you now have in the UK starting February 11th. So you still have those kind of restrictions which would hamper business travel. Because if you actually have to travel there and actually do your test, and you're positive on arrival. You have to isolate, you have to test, and become negative throughout the stay of your travel time or your vacation time. Then you get released.
What's your word to those who are not necessarily optimistic that this chapter we're facing now is the beginning of a much more solid relationship? This isn't the first time we're having approvals given, and then within the nick of time we have a twist.
No, it's like you said, like we started off, we've learned. And it's not good. It's not a yo-yo. This is government to government.
But do you understand that sentiment?
I do, and obviously it's happened in the time past. Also, it's part of the lesson learned, and that's part of, you have the letters and there's documentation. There are bilaterals that have been sent and signed, and there are meetings. And meetings beyond the meetings have been held as well. So this is not something that just came out of the blues. It's something that I've thought through and seen what the implication is. Because just don't think of it within the aero politics or just within aviation. There are a lot of other factors that are driving this. There's the international relations part, there's the economic side of it. And so you just don't take this on the, just like that. You have to actually make sure it's walked through and ensure that it starts despite the challenges. There will be challenges through the process. There will be other airlines, because you have technically 2 airlines that are supposed to fly out of the UAE. One flies now. If the other one wants to recommence their flight, there might be issues thereafter.
Exactly. Now, looking at the mutating COVID-19 now, what sort of challenge do you think this would likely pose to the prospects we're setting ahead for the year 2022 and 2023 in terms of recovery? Yes, we expect domestic flights to still relatively be within a good range, but we cannot necessarily control what would happen in terms of international flights. So what's your outlook really? We've had a Delta variant, we've had a Delta Cron. It's mutating fast, and then there's also the belief that restrictions does not necessarily stop the spread of this virus.
So we've actually, it's been a 2-year learning process, but what we've learned, which is a highly science-based evidence, is the fact that this mutates. Looking at the crystal ball, we don't know what the next mutation will be. There are lots of other mutations that we've seen, some from France, and we've seen that, and it's going to actually occur and evolve. But what do we do moving forward is to ensure, like you rightly said, the vaccine. And over and beyond that, IATA has seen, which is promoted by ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, has promoted what you call the Health Master List, the HML. What the Health Master List sets, it sets up basic parameters for all countries across the world to have a database of everybody that's vaccinated that needs to travel. So you are interconnected, and everybody that needs to travel is a secured, encrypted database where they can verify who has been vaccinated, who's good to travel, and that actually now dovetails into what you said, that when you're clean to travel, you're ensured that you are not a risk to the promotion or the spread of whatever mutation. So that actually helps the spread of further mutations of the of COVID.
Mr. Ojiri, I want to just put you in the spot here. For the lack of time now, in less than 10 seconds, are you optimistic that would likely see Nigeria Air take off April, as initially highlighted by the Minister of Aviation? It's barely 2 months down the line.
I doubt that, and I can put my money on it.
Thank you very much for your time on the Breakfast Show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I would also keep our fingers crossed to see how things play out on the local and domestic front. Jet A1 fuel is also one of the biggest contentious issues we still have on ground, looking at operational efficiency. We'll still have much more discussions in this as the year continues to unfold. Thank you.
My pleasure.